As a whole, when it comes to FIFA, generally gameplay is alright. It's probably the one area that they haven't been a complete mess in over the last few years, in fairness to them. However, there's still quite a few things, in my opinion, that need to be changed and could be changed to make the game even better. Now, for me, particularly, this might not be the case for many people, but things like gameplay is something that I notice quite a lot. And there are certainly things that I would like to see added to the way the game runs. Not in terms of the way the game actually plays physically, as much as there's a few things that do need changing in that department. I mean, both like aesthetically, in terms of audio, as a whole, there are a few things that I feel like could be added to the game to make it much better, and that's what this video is going to be all about. It's not necessarily 10 things, it's just a load of things. It's just more of a conversation, me talking and about a number of things that I feel like could be implemented. If you agree with any of them, be sure to mention it in the comments. If there's anything I've missed, be sure to mention it in the comments. And so yeah, let's get straight into it. First of all, this is something that I've always had a problem with going to FIFA. I remember specifically around, I think it must be FIFA 14 or 15, one of the first FIFAs on the new consoles. There was this discussion about dynamic weather. Now, this isn't something that really bothers me, so I don't really care for this. I just want to bring it up. And their reasoning for not ever having it, or at least on this generation, is that they just can't. It's physically not possible for them. And again, as much as I don't really need dynamic weather, the fact it pissing it down on a half an hour mark doesn't really make a difference to me. I suppose it's realism, and it would be nice to be in there, but I don't really care. Don't really need it. However, to say that dynamic weather isn't possible is just a load of shit. So that's the reason I thought sort of brought it up. If you've ever played the F1 games made by a developer that has a lot less resources and money and financial clout than EA, yet they're perfectly capable of doing a dynamic weather system. So that's a load of shite that they can't do it. But again, that's not really a main problem to me. I just wanted to bring that up quickly because I found that interesting that they said they can't do it when I 100% believe they could. But it's just, as much as it's tiny little bits of laziness that sort of sum up EA Sports and FIFA at the moment, so it's not shocking, is it? But the first major point I want to bring up is, as you see in the background, there's South Coast Derby going on. There's a derby going on, and obviously in real football, derbies mean so much to the people involved. They're the main fixture of the season. They're the main thing you always look for. And when you haven't got a derby for years, it's something you crave so much. But on FIFA, I don't get any special feeling whenever there's a derby, and that's both in terms of there's not much made about the game. Yes, you get one line from Martin Tyler making it clear that this is a rivalry, but other than that, it really is quite lacking. And I would love to see something similar to, I'll get into this a bit later, but something similar to Football Manager, where there's the ability to obtain rivals through playing the game. You can get rivals from playing a team constantly, and maybe you're always having a ding dong for the top of the title, the top of the league, and going for league titles against each other, or things like that. I'd love to see that, so you can obtain rivalries throughout. But there are also obviously the main rivalries that just, no matter what, are important, and you never get that feeling. Me, when on my Portsmouth career and I getting into this, there was no real special feeling of, oh crap, we're playing Southampton, it's a South Coast Derby, oh my god, this is a big deal. Now, in order to make it a big deal, obviously you could spruce up the sort of broadcasting like they normally would. The hype before it could be implemented, but mainly, the main thing I really want is stadiums that have this intense atmosphere. Obviously it's a 3+ game, so I'm not expecting chants at each other suggesting you're inbred and things like that. I'm not saying that, but have that atmosphere intensify, make it clear, noise from away fans, noise from home fans, make it like a cauldron of noise, like it always is. Also make the AI a little bit more aggressive. They're pansies. You could change the refereeing to be like, okay, this is a derby, maybe we should be a bit more careful but not take too much shit. Change the AI to make them make them care more, make them look like they care more, but have crunching tackles every 5 minutes, things like that. I would love to see things like that in the game, and it's something I've had an issue with for years actually. I've always wanted the derbies on the game to feel special, and they never do. There are certain derbies, like for example Scotland, the Old Firm is one of the most passionate, oldest, most intense rivalries in world football. Yet on FIFA 19 you both play in the same generic ground, and other than Celtic fans saying you never walk alone at the start of the game, that's it. There's nothing special to it, and I think it could really benefit in terms of just making the game more realistic. If they look at derbies and they go, you know what, we're gonna make changes in, we're gonna make them more important, we're gonna make them feel better than what they are. And I'd love to see that sort of thing in the game, to be honest with you. We sort of touched upon it whilst talking about that there, in terms of crowd, and I really want more chance and less roboticness from them. It's great that, honestly, when FIFA 14 came out, I thought it was really good that, okay, now you can see each and every individual. Not that that's brilliant in terms of the fact you can clearly see they copy and paste it, but to be honest with them, it takes a lot of time to make, in some cases, up to 90,000 models. So I don't blame them for that. That's fine. They can copy and paste whatever they want. However, they're a little bit robotic and they're not particularly realistic. I think they really need to try and amplify the realism. For example, and they need to do this in terms of with their home fans or away fans. Home fans tend to be a little bit less reserved, other than their main sort of loud area. However, away fans, especially in England, I mean, the way their culture probably changes across the world, but in terms of Britain, absolute fucking limbs. That's what happens when away teams score. There's carnage, and I feel like they should better represent carnage. Obviously, I don't know if there's some sort of hazard with doing flares nowadays because it's a 3+ game, but flares could be added. PES have done that, and they've got away with it, but maybe the fact it's the official game of FIFA, understandably, maybe they don't want to see flares represented in their game. So maybe not add flares, but just make the atmosphere, make it more realistic, make the away fans go nuts. Don't make atmospheres so home fan based as well. If you go to most games, home fans tend to be a little bit more reserved compared to away fans. That's never the case on FIFA though. And I just think little things like that, and I know this might sound a bit odd, and I don't know if people agree with me, but it's those little things that bother me. I like to have a little bit of realism. That's something I really sort of crave on it. I wanted the game to be as realistic as possible, and things like that I do notice them. They did add, I can't remember if it was FIFA 18 or FIFA 17, but they added in very few grounds, it must be said, they had the surge forwards. The fans would surge forwards. Now, that was a minor step in the right direction in terms of making crowds a little bit more realistic, because that does happen. But it's just a few more things, like I say, more realistic reactions to things like goals and shit like that. Oh, and while I'm on it, penalties. If a penalty is saved, fans celebrate, they cheer. Yet on FIFA, it's just like, oh, well, they missed, isn't that lucky? I feel like there should be, again, more emotion involved. I know they're just copy and paste figures, but they need to show a little bit more emotion to things like that. Because things like that can make a big difference in terms of just the game being more realistic, in my opinion. So, in terms of crowd, yes, you can see each individual figure. Yes, they're a little bit more animated than they used to be, but they could be a lot more realistic, in my opinion. And I hope that at some point they will be made to be more realistic. Now, in terms of proper gameplay, like the actual game of football itself, I don't want to touch on this too much, because one of the things I really wanted them to take from PES was the ability to essentially properly have your own tactic. Yes, I know you can set short possession, passing possession, or possession game, or whatever, counter attack, long like hoof balling it essentially. But it's been very linear throughout FIFA, and PES do it a lot better. You can have things like tiki-taka if you want tiki-taka. Do you want offensive fullbacks? You can turn on offensive fullbacks. You can also in-game turn off the offensive fullbacks. And based on what I've heard from FIFA 19, that is what they are doing. They're taking that and they're bringing it in. So in terms of tactical gameplay, there's a bit more wiggle room. It's not just park the bus and all-out attack. And that's something I was very happy to see. In terms of the gameplay itself, I don't want things to be stupidly OP. I really don't. However, since FIFA 15, which was the last game that had pace, was unbelievably OP, and that made it a very pleasant attacking experience, it must be said. Since then, I feel like they've gone very much defensive heavy to try and compensate that not happening. And I actually think FIFA 18, when the game came out, it was at a good place. It was quite entertaining. They patched it, and it hasn't been the same since. It's quite difficult to score more than one goal in the first half, I've realised. Other than a few exceptions, there have been moments where I have, but I find it a bit more difficult. And I feel like it's been too favoured in terms of defensive more than it has been attacking, and I feel like it needs to be more attacking simply to be more entertaining. Yes, there's, again, as I said, realism is something I really care for, but I want it to be fun as well, and I feel like that's where they got to get the balancing act, not balancing attack and defence, but balancing fun and stupidness. So as much as I don't want pace to be OP, I want pace to be noticeable. If someone's 90 overall in terms of pace, and they're going up against a 54 overall defender, I don't care if he's got the ball to control as well. He's going to be a lot faster, and that needs to be shown. He could easily get around his centre back, but that on FIFA, I feel like that there's certainly inconsistencies with that, and it does that does impact again the game in terms of realism. And that's all I really have to say on terms of the actual game, the proper gameplay side of things. I think it just needs to be slightly more edging to attacking than defending. But I just don't see, they've had years to try and perfect this. There can't be many more times that they go wrong and they can't get the balance right, because they've been doing it for so long now. And you've got to hope that eventually they're going to get it right, and hopefully FIFA 19 they'll get it right. That's wishful thinking probably, but hopefully they will. In terms of audio, now I turn the music off on the menus for obvious reasons. I don't want to be copyright, infringing and things like that. And if I ever want music while I'm on there, I just use Spotify on my PS4. But the music as a whole has gone downhill in my opinion. It used to be iconic. You used to hear songs you'd never ever hear, simply because they're from Brazil or Africa or whatever. There was this worldwide presence, and as much as that's technically still there, the music's far too poppy for me, like pop. Change it up a little bit, for fuck's sake. But again, that's not really a main issue to me. The main issue is, for me, commentary. Now, I know a lot of people will agree on this, and I know for the Champions League, and I'm assuming the Europa League as well, I think it's Derek Ray and Lee Dixon, which represents a positive because it's a break from Martin Tyler and Alan Smith. So we got that, but in terms of, as far as I'm aware, as far as I can tell, Alan Smith and Martin Tyler are still doing the rest of the game. Now, I've got no problem with these two as a commentary pair. They're fine. I think on Sky they're good. I know people say Martin Tyler's a bit of a Man United fan, but other than that, I think they're two very good commentators, and I think it's great that FIFA have them. However, they're not using them in the right way. Some lines they've had for years. They haven't added that many new lines at all. Even with the World Cup update, they use the same lines you'd get for a domestic cup. Oh, you're in a semi-final. This is a chance for one of these teams to make it to the final and win it. It's a World Cup. Be a bit more enthusiastic. That's just, again, more laziness. There's nothing more than that. And I really, really, really hope. Otherwise, I might have to turn commentary off. And I never imagined me doing that because I like having commentary in the background generally. But it needs to be freshened up a little bit. Obviously, I'm not saying change everything, but at this point, where you've kept it the same for so long in many areas, you probably do have to change quite a lot. But just freshen it up, please. For the love of God, I cannot bear the same commentary in the next FIFA. I really can't. I really hope that's something they do and something they change up. For the rest of it, it's just simply obvious things. I've already made a video about 10 stadiums I think should be in the game. There's not enough stadiums, and certainly when they first came onto next generation or current generation consoles, there were quite a few grounds where they not only showed the ground, they showed the surrounding area. They've stopped doing that all of a sudden. They don't do that anywhere near as much anymore. Why not? Just can't be asked, I'm guessing. I mean, it's small things, but it could add up. PES do it brilliantly with the grounds they've got. They do it both. They did it with Dortmund well. They did it with Barcelona well. They not only do they show the ground, they show the surrounding area, and it's not just a 2D implant from Google Maps either. It's not just 2D. It's not like, oh, there's a car there, but it's flat. It was proper. Everything was 3D rendered. Looked fantastic. FIFA should be doing that as well. The only reason they're not doing it is seriously, it's just laziness. There's no other excuse other than that, in my opinion. It's just laziness. So things like that could add up. Leagues need to be added to make the game more realistic. Face scans need to be better. Some of them are ridiculous. I know they added quite a few with the World Cup update eventually, but they need to add more. And don't just keep it to big leagues. Try and expand yourself a little bit more, because people don't just play in Spain and England's Premier League. They play across the board. People play Ultimate Team, and they don't just use those players. They use a whole array of players. And if you can have more face scans, again, more realism. It's not a bad thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it off the top of my head. I can't think of much more, and the game in the background is going to end soon. So yeah, I better not blabber on for too long. However, that's sort of. I'm not sure if I call it a rant, but it's a discussion about what I would like to see change. I really hope things like gameplay areas do change. Again, FIFA's been relatively good at it, but very lazy in other areas. And I really do hope that they sort that out, and we'll be hopefully on FIFA 19. We can't keep having essentially false new dawns and false hope. Eventually, they've got to get it right, or people are going to go. And as much as that sounds unrealistic to happen, it will happen. I was close to ditching FIFA for PES this year if they didn't lose the UEFA license. So FIFA need to get their act together, and hopefully they will. Anyway, if there's any other gameplay things that you think I should have brought up or you want to see changed, leave them in the comments below. If you're new around here, be sure to subscribe for more FIFA and more gaming content in general. And yeah, if you enjoyed or agreed on any points I made, leave a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.